about never giving up. You know, I think that there's so much power in just never giving up. And I wonder, even as I just begin to share this today, how many of you watching TV right now, maybe you're in a bad place in your life and you just kind of feel like, I just don't know if I can go on, or some of you maybe, I don't even know that I want to go on. And I was remembering this morning a time in my life when something really that was hurtful to me had taken place. And it involved a major disappointment and something that wasn't going to be fixed real easily. And I won't get into all the details, but it was just really, really painful. And you know, sometimes when you're hurting that bad, you don't want to do anything. You just don't want to do anything. You don't want to move. You don't want to go out. You know, you might want to just go to bed and pull the covers up over your head. And just, you don't want anybody trying to cheer you up. You don't want any of that. And I remember the Lord speaking to my heart, you got to keep moving. You just got to keep moving. And you know, I felt in particular as I was thinking about this teaching for TV that some of you really need to just keep moving. You're hurting really bad. There may be even those of you that are thinking, I don't even think that I want to live anymore. You might be thinking about suicide, which we obviously don't want you to do because God needs you. You're important. You're important to the world. You're important to Him. And He does have something amazing for you to do. And so I recall when I was going through that, I just would get up and walk slowly through the house. Then I'd eventually put my clothes on, and then I would come to the office. And it did help, because one of the worst things that you can do when you're going through something hard is just to sit and think about what a hard time you're having. If you get out and do something else, it can be really helpful. And so maybe you've just been saying, God, I don't know what to do, and maybe His answer to you today is just keep moving. Maybe you need to just put something on and go outside and just take a walk down the street. Just keep moving, but don't ever give up. It's amazing how many people in the world have done phenomenal things after having failed numerous times in their life. And so failure doesn't have to be the end. Making mistakes doesn't have to be the end. Everything that we don't do right, at least we learn not to do that again. And Henry Ford, for example, who invented the automobile, went broke 5 times before he had a success. The great dancer and movie star Fred Astaire took a screen test at MGM, and a studio memo reported that he was slightly bald, could not act, and could only dance a very little bit. I just think it's good for us to know that everybody who's had a success wasn't somebody who just immediately had a success. I could probably venture to say that everybody who's had a success has had something that they have to overcome. And so often we make the mistake of looking at somebody and thinking, well, they were just born that way, or, well, it'd be nice if you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth or whatever. But I think most people, if they're going to be successful, they have to press through some things. A newspaper fired Walt Disney because they said he lacked ideas. And he went bankrupt, several times before building Disney World. And I could just go on and on and on. This is a book that I wrote about 9 years ago called simply Never Give Up. And one of the things that we tend to do, or that one of the lies that the enemy tells us is, well, there's just no way. There's no way. There's no way out. And despair, when people get into despair, that means that they've come to a point where they see no way out. But we have to remember that there's always a way out. And those of us who are believers in Jesus Christ know that He said in John 14:6, I am the way. We may not know the way, and He may not be telling us the way, but He wants us to believe that He is the way maker. I love the scripture, I think it's in Isaiah, that says, He will even make a way in the wilderness. And so perhaps if you're in a wilderness place in your life right now, maybe you're lonely, maybe somebody has died that you really loved, God will make a way for you. But He does require you to never give up. You know, hope is such a powerful thing, because hope is the expectation that something good can happen in our life. And I tell you, the enemy absolutely hates it when we have any kind of hope. So some of the things that we might hear in our head, thoughts and lies that the enemy puts there, are things like this. Well, there's no way I can handle the pressure at work. There's no way I can pay my bills at the end of the month. There's no way to save my marriage. There's no way my children will ever grow up and be responsible adults. I can't tell you how many of mine I felt that way about. And now they're all doing great. There's no way that I can keep this house clean and straight. There's no way for me to open my own business. There's no way I can go back to college. There's no way I can ever lose the weight that I need to lose. The enemy wants us to think there is no way. But I want you to know today that there is always, 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 always a way. Jesus said, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. Now, I could list a 1,000-page list, I guess, of things that we shouldn't give up on. But I'm only going to talk to you about a few. Don't give up on the people that you love. I think one of the worst mistakes that we can make is to look at somebody and say, well, you're never going to change, I'm out of here. We'd all be in pretty bad shape if God had that attitude toward us. But see, He always believes the best. He always believes that with one more chance, we can try it. And you know, my dad, of course, you know, he was abusive toward me, and had a very rough life with him. And yet, because the Spirit of God was in me, when I found relationship with God, I continued to pray for his salvation. Now, I didn't do that every day of my life. You know, there were times when I would get frustrated and maybe go several months and just think, you know, but I would always go back to praying for him. And he was 83 when he received Christ. And he only lived about 3 years after that. But nonetheless, don't give up on people. And you know, even if you can't stay with somebody anymore, maybe you have a friend that you just can't keep spending time with them. It's not safe for you, it's not healthy for you, but that still doesn't mean you have to give up. Because as long as we're praying, God still has an open door to work in somebody's life. And you know, we really, when people are going through difficult times, you don't want to give them the message, I don't believe you'll ever change. You know, I was such a terrible mess when I married Dave, and it's a good thing the man was praying for a wife, and he said to God, make it somebody that needs help. You got to be really careful, because I don't think he knew how much help I needed. But I don't think Dave ever really thought about just getting out of the marriage. He was committed to God, so therefore he was committed to me. And it took a long time. But if Dave would have given up on me, then we wouldn't be standing here today. Even our son David, who works here, I mean, I remember getting ready to pull into, when we had our other building, pull in there one day, and I was having so many issues with him. He was just strong-willed, and his temperament was a problem for me, and not only me, but other people. And I just thought, that's it. He's just not going to be able to work for us. And clearly, I remember the Lord speaking to my heart, don't give up on him. Don't give up on him. And today he has been responsible, with God's help, for all the mission works that we have all over the world today. You have no idea the people in your life that maybe you're tempted to give up on right now, what God could do through them if you'll be willing maybe to pay a price. Which means sometimes, you know, Christians are not real cool with the word sacrifice anymore. I mean, that's just not a real popular message. I doubt very much that I could, you know, get on television and say, well, guess what? Today I'm going to teach on sacrifice and suffering. And probably a lot of people would just turn the TV off, because that's not really what they want to hear. But we do need to remember that we're called to love people, and love does sometimes and very often require a sacrifice. Another thing that I want to encourage you about, as far as never giving up, is don't ever give up on yourself. See, I think sometimes we have more problems with ourselves than we have with anybody else. And we don't want to talk to anybody about it. We all have this little pretend me, and then we have the real me. And, you know, sometimes you'll have a stronghold in your life that you've had for a long, long time. It could be temper. It could be, I don't know, maybe you're like I was for a long time and still can be occasionally, where it just seems like I can open my mouth and stick my foot in it. And, you know, I'm like, what did I say that for? Why did I do that? And our patience, you know, I'm real patient in some areas, and but I tell you what, if I've got an appointment somewhere and they're 15, 20 minutes late, my fruit gets tested. I like things to happen on time because I've got a plan. And so there's things, and those may be really simple things. Some of you may be dealing with addictions in your life. You may be dealing with just such a bad temper that it's ruining all your relationships. I don't know what it might be, but the thing is don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on yourself. Because if you do, then what you're saying is, God's not big enough to change me. And really the truth is if you spend time with the Lord and you study His Word, which maybe we say that so much people just get tired of hearing it, but there's a difference in reading the Bible and studying the Word. And if you study the Word, like if you have a bad temper and you'll study the Word in the area of anger, the Word has the power in it to change your life. You can't change yourself, but if you start asking God to help you, then He will change you. Doesn't happen overnight. It's little by little from glory to glory. But my goodness, how God has changed me. And how many of you, God has just changed you and is changing you. And, you know, a year from now, you'll even be different than what you are. And so I love Isaiah 41, they that wait upon the Lord. But here's what it means to wait on God. Who expect, look for, and hope in Him. See, waiting on God is not just some passive, well, I'm going to go sit in a chair over here and just wait, do nothing the rest of my life and see what God does. No, you wait with expectancy, like, God, I'm expecting you to show up and do something amazing in my life. They shall change and renew their strength and power. They shall change. Come on. They shall change. There's nobody watching by TV today, nobody in the room that is beyond change. God can change every single one of us. I don't want you to give up. I don't want you just to throw in the towel and quit. If all you can do right now is just get out of that bed and walk across the room, do something. And if you'll do what you can do, God will do what you cannot do. They shall lift up their wings and mount up close to God as eagles mount up to the sun. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and they shall not faint. Now, you know, fear is a real thief in our lives. And I think if we're going to talk about not giving up, then we have to talk about fear, at least for a little bit. Isaiah 41:10 says, "Fear not, there's nothing to fear." Well, isn't that interesting? Most of us could say, well, sit down here for a minute, Lord. I can tell you about, I got a long list of things that are scaring me. Fear not, there's nothing to fear, for I am with you. That's the only answer He gives, because I'm with you. And so if we really know who the Lord is, I'm not talking about just going to church, but I mean, if you really know who the Lord is, then we don't have to know what He's going to do. We don't have to know when He's going to do it. We don't have to know what the way is going to be. We just say, Lord, I know You're with me, and therefore I can do what I need to do. And you know, we talk about fear all the time. Fear is not, we're not just talking about a feeling. I may feel fear on and off the rest of my life, but that doesn't mean I have to be afraid. Because when fear causes you to stop and to do nothing, it's the master spirit, I believe, that the enemy uses to try to keep us from fulfilling our destiny. And so he tells us there's no way. He says, you got to be afraid of this. You know, if you failed before, then you got to be afraid that you're going to fail again. But God says, fear not, for I am with you. I love that. There's nothing to fear. Do not look around you in terror and be dismayed. You know, it's one of our problems. We look around us too much instead of looking up. The more you stare at your problems, The more you go to lunch with your friends and talk about your problems, the more you rehearse your problems, the bigger they're going to get. I will strengthen, and I love this, I will strengthen and harden you to difficulties. You know, every time you go through something difficult, boy, experience is so valuable. Every time you go through something difficult, it makes you a little bit stronger. Just a little bit stronger. I will help you. I will hold you up and retain you with my victorious right hand of rightness and justice. Now, you know, there's a lot of things that we can talk about concerning fear, and so I'm just going to see how far we get down this list. 7 fears you need to confront in your life. Number 1, the fear of what people think. Wow. We just worry too much about they, whoever they are. I got to thinking about one day and I thought, who are they anyway? They seem to run all of our lives. They tell us what we can wear and how we can have our hair and, you know, what we need to look like and how we need to act. We don't even know who they are. We care way too much about what people think. And, you know, everybody wants to be liked. Everybody wants to be accepted. I'm not saying that we should just go around and have an attitude, well, I don't care what you think. This is what I'm going to do. But the truth is, I mean, it's been proven statistically that 10% of people won't like you no matter what you do. So to have this elusive dream that you want everybody in the world to like you and to love you and applaud you, I mean, it is just not going to happen. And I think the fear of man is probably one of the greatest fears that people face in their life. The fear of what they're going to say, the fear of what they're going to think, the fear of what they're going to do, the fear of what they're not going to do. Couple scriptures. I love what the Apostle Paul said in Galatians 1:10. Now, am I trying to win the favor of men or of God? Do I seek to please men? Now listen to this. If I were still seeking popularity with men, I would not right now be a bondservant of the Lord Jesus Christ. So the Apostle Paul himself said, if I was just trying to be popular with people, I mean, I can tell you for sure, if I would have been just trying to be popular with people, I would have never fulfilled my destiny. Never, ever, ever, because I got all kinds of pushback. And then also in John 12:42 and 43, it says, yet in spite of all this, many, even of the leading men, the authorities and the nobles, believed and trusted in him. But now listen, but because of the Pharisees, they would not confess it, for fear that if they would acknowledge him, they would be thrown out of the synagogue. I wonder how many people won't make a decision for Christ because they're afraid of what their friends are going to think. They're afraid of being put out of the group. Or maybe even how many people, you want a deeper relationship with God. You want something more than just showing up at a church building once a week and putting your 45 minutes in. You really want to go deeper with God, but you don't want to be accused of being a religious fanatic. You know, anytime that you decide to go forward, you can be assured that the enemy is going to send somebody that's going to say, I disapprove. I don't like what you're doing. And the message may even get stronger. And if you keep doing this, then I'm not going to be your friend anymore. I mean, I've told the story. You know, when I started teaching the Word, I was asked to leave my church. I mean, it didn't make any sense to me. I thought, well, what sense does that make? I'm just trying to do what I believe that God wants me to do. The fear of criticism, along the same lines. I think this is a big fear in people's lives, the fear of not pleasing God. And you know, like in my life, that was huge for me because I could never please my father. No matter what I did, I could never please him, and I never knew when I was going to get in trouble for what. And he really definitely was not into people enjoying their life or having any fun. And so I carried that over into my relationship with God for a long time, and I actually would feel guilty if I was enjoying myself. I was concerned that, you know, God might not like it if I was having too much fun. It's amazing how just dead, dry religion will make you think that it's wrong to have fun. I mean, I remember when I first when I became a serious Christian, you know, not just a Christian, but a serious Christian. I mean, my goodness, we stopped doing